Rivers have been a cornerstone of my life for over 35 years. I love everything about them. They can be so peaceful and calming, but they can also be so powerful and dramatic.
Look at that falls. That is gorgeous.
And while no two rivers are alike, they all share a similar magic.
Woo. Hands down, one of the most beautiful spots.
Rivers have taught me so much over the years. Some of those lessons have come the hard way.
Ooh, you didn't just do that.
But they've all been so valuable.
It's not over.
Paddling a river for the first time is something truly special, which you can only do once. Every bend is a moment of discovery, and every rapid is a puzzle to solve.
There's just not enough water there. That is the only one that has a possibility.
I'll be experiencing plenty of both as I set out on a week-long trip down the Petawawa River in Algonquin Park.
All right, this is a waterfall.
The 90-kilometer, 60-mile section has over 50 rapids.
That is not happening.
It's still early season, which means I'm expecting interesting weather, plenty of bugs, and a low chance of seeing anyone else. These are the trips that keep me awake at night, too excited to fall asleep. You do your best to plan for everything that can happen, but the unexpected is one of the big expectations.
All right.
A week can seem like a long time alone in the backcountry, but I know it'll be over all too soon.
Holy moly.
One thing is for certain, I'm going to enjoy every minute.
It's a big day. It's a good day. Ken Whiting here with a special director's cut of the Petawawa River trip I did in Algonquin Park. This was a week-long trip that I did, and it was one of the most incredible backcountry trips ever. Some of you may have already seen this. I released it as 3 episodes on my Paddle TV channel this past summer. But in this director's cut, I'm going to be providing more insight, go in more depth to what's going on and some of the decisions that I made. And so, without further ado, enjoy this director's cut, that's me, of the Petawawa River in Algonquin Park by kayak. You got everything? I got everything. Oh my gosh. Hope this boat floats. Yep, she floats. Okay. Well, we are off. A 7-day solo trip down the Petawawa River. Something I've been looking forward to for quite some time. I've done the lower section of the Petawawa, but I haven't done this top section before, and so really excited to check it out. It's always a special feeling when you push away from land, when you launch. Here, I got dropped off by Rick from Algonquin Portage, who offer a great shuttle service. Thank you, Algonquin Portage, for making it so easy for me and so many people to enjoy Algonquin Park. But, you know, getting dropped off and then knowing, okay, here we go. I got 7 days. Get down this river. First 3 days never seen this section of river, and it's got quite a bit of white water on it. Actually a lot of whitewater on it. And it's a mixed feeling of excitement, a little anxiety, more excitement than anxiety, and just freedom. Got some wind waves here that I can take advantage of, get a little boost. Oh yeah. This lake would be a bit more of a challenge if the wind was going in the other direction, but I actually have great wind. Sweet. So watching this shot, it really brings to mind some of the filming challenges I had on the Petawawa River. First one was the fact that being a provincial park, I wasn't allowed to use a drone. And I totally get that. You know, drones in parks can be a real problem, even though I knew I was not going to, there's a good chance I wasn't going to see anyone on this trip. And I would be very respectful with the drone and not film other people, not drone around other people to impact their experience. I still get it. You know, not everybody does that. And so no drones in provincial parks. The challenge there is action cameras that are attached to your boat only provide a great perspective, but it's limiting. They don't do a good job of showing the whole environment that you're in and really setting the stage. And so that's where third-person shots come in, and where a drone is so great, because when you put up a drone, you can get a lot of different shots that show different angles and different parts of the surroundings in a very short period of time. I couldn't do that. And so for shots like this, what I had to do was paddle to shore. This was a spot that, there was an island, and it was a spot that I could relatively easily set up my camera on a little tripod. And then I had to hit record, paddle out, and then paddle across the frame where I knew I'd set up the shot. And then as soon as I thought I was out of frame, paddle back to the island, stop the camera, put it away, and then move on. And so it's a lot of work, a lot of extra paddling for what's often usually like maybe a 3 to 5 second shot. So that was one of the challenges. You know, the other challenges with filming were the amount of gear. I mean, I was carrying about 40 pounds of camera gear on this shoot. That combined with 60 pounds of camp gear, it's a lot of gear in a small boat. Battery power for 7 days and waterproofing stuff. You know, there's a lot of challenges, but I'm not going to go into all of that right now. I'm actually going to be doing this spring a full video about how to film your own paddling adventure. In fact, I plan to do that as a presentation at Canoecopia this spring. So hey, if you can make it, hopefully I'll see you there. All right, let's keep going. Well, here we are at the mouth of the Petawawa. Not exactly sure. I understand there's a dam here to portage over, and then should be able to run the whitewater below it. Let's check this thing out. Time to scout. Well, I came on this trip earlier than I had originally planned, just so I could get a little bit more water. Everything's just so early this season, and the water's way lower than normal at this time of year, and I hoped I could catch a little bubble after some rain, but man, it's low.
it's really low right now, but it's not crazy low, I know that. It's gonna make some rapids tough, a lot of bouncing. Almost worst case scenario, because what's going on here is that the river is dropping over this dam. It's not just going through this main channel here, it's filtering through this really wide area, and so the water is spread out, and so there's not many deep channels here. It looks like I can get through though, more of just a binky through. It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be a whole lot better than portaging that big old heavy boat of mine. All right, let's do it. Yep, looks good. Ooh, loaded boat. Definitely acts different. Ooh. That's good. I got left like I hoped like I wanted to. Now we're good to go. A few more rocks. Ooh. Not pretty, but she works. Yoo! All right. Nice. Well, mission accomplished. Through the first set of rapids. Little cloud cover, which I'm not going to complain about. Next up, God, I'm making good time. Looks like I got about a kilometer, and then the next rapid. Go away, blackflies. Levels on the Petawawa are dropping quick. I was worried that it'd be too low to even bounce my way through rapids, but that first rapid is a really, it's encouraging. It means I should be able to work my way, bounce my way through a fair bit of the whitewater ahead. Not all of it. This section has got some real drops, and with this loaded boat, it's just, well, it's not performing at its peak level. It's really hard to move around, but more importantly is the fact that I can't afford any big mistakes out here. I mean, if I were to get into trouble, swim, lose the boat pin, break my paddle, lose my paddle, I got a backup paddle, but it's just a solo trip out here. There's just not room for error, so I'm gonna have to make more conservative decisions than I might normally make in the whitewater ahead, and portage some things that normally I would probably run. But water level is encouraging. It's not rock bottom low, it's low though. Definitely more challenging in a canoe.
With the first rapid behind me, I'm feeling a lot better about my decision to bring a kayak on the trip. They're not something you see very often in the park. Canoes are the boat of choice, and for good reason. They're fast on the flat sections, they carry lots of gear, they can run some whitewater, and they make portaging a lot easier. The reason I decided to go with a kayak is because I felt it would allow me to run a lot more of the rapids, which means a lot less portaging. The X factor was water level. Was it going to have enough water to actually take advantage of the kayak and run the whitewater? At this point, it's looking good, even though I'm doing a lot of rock bouncing along the way.
Which way to go? Sneak or not to sneak? Not to sneak.
The kayak I'm using is the Liquid Logic Remix XP10. It's referred to as a crossover kayak, which means it's a whitewater kayak designed specifically for carrying gear for multi-day trips. What makes it different is that it's wider and it has a higher weight capacity.
Bum, bum, bum. Just stopped to scout a little. Actually, it's worked out pretty well.
It also has a bulkhead behind the seat that separates the stern of the kayak into its own compartment for gear, which you can access through a big hatch. Being out here for a week, I've got the kayak loaded to the brim on the inside, which is why I've needed to strap down some dry bags on the top. All the weight is definitely making the kayak less maneuverable than normal, but it's working.
We're gonna pivot. The old pivot move. I didn't like that shallow spot. We'll eddy out and reassess.
As a canoeer, typically rocks are something that you avoid at all costs, and for good reasons. Canoes do not deal well with rocks, but whitewater kayaks are quite a bit different. They're different in a lot of ways, but the biggest reason is whitewater kayaks don't have a V-hull or a keel on the hull, on the bottom of them. They're typically flat or round, and that makes a big difference with how they deal with rocks when you ride up on them or you go into them sideways. When you're developing as a whitewater kayaker, it's not long before you learn that rocks aren't to be avoided at all costs. Sometimes rocks can actually be your friends. Now, they can definitely be your enemy too, but they can be your friends in a variety of ways. Of course, they create eddies that you can use to take a break and regroup and scout ahead. But you can also use rocks, actually hit some nice smoother rocks to do something called boofing, keep your nose up as you're going over a drop. And then in this one rapid here, you can see how I used rocks in two different ways. I used rocks at one point to stop myself midstream when there wasn't a good eddy to stop, and to stop, regroup, scout ahead, and pick the right line. And then what I just did here was I used the rock to stop my downstream momentum, stop myself from going down a channel that I didn't like the looks of. It was just super shallow and it was going to get nasty, and to pivot around and go a different way. And so, bottom line, as a whitewater kayaker, this is one of the big differences between canoeing and kayaking, and why kayaks are better at running whitewater is because you can use rocks to your benefit as a kayaker.
Left. Just so many rocks right now that knock you offline. Yeah, this looks good. Through the gap and through the gap. Woo! Definitely shallow. Nice. Well, after some good quality humming and hawing, I've decided to stop here, set up camp for the night. It's a nice little campsite up here, but more importantly, there's a what looks like a nice fishing hole, and so I'm gonna see if I can catch myself some dinner. There are walleye on this river to be caught, although they're not easy to catch. Maybe if you're a good angler, but I'm not. Home sweet home. I think I might just leave it at that. Just the tent, and not worry about firewood, not worry about a tarp. It's not supposed to rain tonight. And the bugs are so bad, I'm not going to be hanging out by a fire tonight. I don't see that happening. So that's okay. It doesn't get dark until like 9:30 right now, and I plan on doing a fair bit of fishing. So I think that's what I might do, is go for a fish and see if I can catch dinner, and if not, then come back and cook up some dinner and have an early night. Right, let's go catch a slob. Or at least a good stick. Oh, fish on. Catfish, the way it's moving around. Yeah, no. Look at that chub. Funny looking fish. I go swim. Look at the same damn fish. There's a fish. What we got? Head shaking. Catfish. Not what I was after either. Not the desired fish. Swim away.
Petawawa River is actually a really good fishing river. I actually once did a trip down the lower section with some friends that was a fishing focused trip, and we were targeting muskie, and we caught a whack load of muskie on that trip. Amazing muskie fishing, but also great walleye fishing, even though this doesn't really show it. Something to note though is I actually did catch 2 walleye in this little fishing hole right here, but I couldn't show you them because I lost that footage. And the walleye were so small that I definitely couldn't keep them. But you'll learn more about how I lost that footage shortly. But yeah, great fishing on the Petawawa and in the lakes between the river. Definitely worth bringing your fishing rod if you do a trip down the Petawawa.
Well, another high-class meal for me tonight. This one is spicy African-style peanut stew with sweet potatoes. Okay, I'll take that. Ooh. Well, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm not new to dehydrated meals, but I do want it known that I don't always do dehydrated meals. When I'm on a family trip or a friend's trip, a group trip, and I have a different craft. I just don't have the space for much else right now. But I do like good meals. I do eat well on some camp trips. You'll just have to take my word for it. Maybe one day I'll show you. I don't think I ate enough or drank enough today. I don't know why I keep doing that to myself. Ow. Wow. They're out in force. I like that spice. Where's that little addition? I think it's a hint of DEET. I got DEET on everything. Still biting me. Yeah. Well, all is now right in the world. Got my coffee. Pretty nice morning. I'm not even sure what time it is. I didn't bring a watch. I got my phone, but I didn't even bother checking it this morning. There's no real urgency today. I mean, I've got some ground to cover today. Plenty of water to cover. A lot of whitewater. but the days are so long this time of year. I mean, the sunrise is around 5, sunset is after 9:15 or something. So daylight is not an issue. Our breakfast time, and going a little higher class than, than a straight dehydrated meal. A little breakfast sandwich. I am using dehydrated eggs. Oh yeah.
Looks like it might get a little bit of rain.
Well, I just went through one of the tougher sections of whitewater on the Petawawa. And I'm telling you this story after the fact because the camera that I was telling the story to during the adventure, well, it decided to go for a swim and is no longer with us. Ooh, you didn't just do that. I can laugh about it now. I'm at that point. I can laugh about it because that's what happens when you're filming, paddling, especially whitewater. It happens. Camera gear on the water. I'm over it. I'm okay with it. It's not the first time, and it's certainly not going to be the last time. Even though there was no excuse. It was a dumb error, user error, dummy. But anyway.
So when I originally posted this video on my other channel, I had a lot of helpful comments suggesting that I use a little tether, basically a rope to tie the camera to the kayak so that if it got knocked off, I wouldn't lose it completely. Great suggestions. It is something that I was doing on this trip, and that's why I'm such a dummy. I've learned this lesson before. This is not the first camera that I've lost. Well, it's the first camera I lost this particular way, ramming into a rock that was, and the impact being strong enough to just jar the camera loose, but it's not the first camera I've lost off a kayak. And so as a rule, I tether every action camera to the boat or to me. In this particular case, I had just gotten out of the boat to change a card or a battery on that camera, and I set it up, got back into the kayak, and realized, I forgot the tether. I forgot the safety. And I just got lazy. I'm like, I'm through the rough stuff. I've got a couple of little class 1, 2s, at least that's what the guidebook said. And, it's fine. And then it's flat water, and I'm going to stop for lunch just up ahead. And so I'll re-tether it there when I get out. And, I paid the price for being lazy, and I just learned the same lesson. I think that's the third time I've learned this lesson. And so, if you're watching this and you're filming your own adventures, don't be a Ken.
The rain came, and I wasn't expecting, the forecast did not call for that much rain, but it rained. It was raining pretty good when I got to the bridge, which marked the beginning of Devil Chute Rapid, where the river braids out and a bunch of islands, and there's a bunch of different channels you can take, and some channels have more water than others. It really, especially low water, whenever the river spreads out, you have to choose the channel that's getting more water. Low water. Ooh, easy. Easy, Tiger.
And that took me down the main channel of Devil's Chute Rapids. Now, I scouted it. I pulled up on the river right-hand side and hopped out and took a look at it. And I was like, okay, I think it goes. Surprising. And I was feeling pretty confident that I didn't have to take the gear out of my boat too, because this boat performs so differently with the load. And I haven't run anything quite that big yet. So, but I felt pretty good. I felt pretty good about it.
All right, well, I am going to, it's a little eddy right above the drop. I'm gonna go take another look from that angle. It's always good to look at a drop from different perspectives. It just looks different. It always looks different. So, you know, the consequences are too high out here to not take the time to do it, but I'm liking the looks of it. It's a good drop. Look at that.
I'm very aware right now that I'm alone and kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so I can't have any significant mistakes. I can lose a camera, but I can't be having bigger mistakes than that. That's about the extent.
Okay, here we go. All right. That was over pretty quick.
Devil's Chute Rapid was another key learning rapid for me. It was the first drop that I had to run. And it was this pretty significant little drop too. That was also pretty shallow. I mean, the water level was right on the edge. There was just enough water to make these channels deep enough, but just barely. And it was a little bit limiting too. Like there wasn't enough water so that the pathway was wide. They were pretty narrow. In this particular rapid, my biggest concern was that as the water went over the drop and sped up, it got really thin and I was going to go over rock. And I knew my boat was going to touch rock. The question was, how much was I going to hit the rock? How much was it going to slow me down? And the reason that is a problem in this situation is if the rocks slow my boat down and I'm now moving, my boat is moving slower than the current is actually moving, then what the current's going to do is it's going to push the stern of my kayak and spin me either sideways or backwards. And now I'm going over the drop sideways and backwards, which is very rarely a good thing. In this particular case, it wasn't ideal if that happened, that's for sure. But I looked at the rapid itself and said, okay, I think I can manage that. And, you know, I have time before the next rapid to deal with whatever happens. And so it's like, okay, I can deal with that. I was also pretty confident that I wasn't going to get hung up that badly, slowed down that much by the rocks. And that's why you'll see me when I'm pulling out of the eddy at the top, I take a couple of good, hard, powerful strokes to get some speed, to get moving a little bit faster than the current, so that when I started hitting the rocks and it started slowing me down a little bit, it wouldn't slow me down. It wouldn't slow me more than the current was moving.
I felt really good about that, because not only did I get through it, but once again it shows that, hey, there's enough water on this river right now, and I might be able to run some of the
the ledges that are going to be coming up over the next couple of days that I've never seen before. And that brings you up to speed to where I am right now. A little heartbroken. A small part for losing a brand new GoPro, but more importantly, for losing the footage from the past 36 hours that was on that GoPro. But c'est la vie. And I got a lot of river left to go. So I feel better already. And the sun came out. It's almost like the powers that be have said to, you know what, that sucks. So here, have some sun. Oh, this is beautiful. Wow. But now I'm into some flat water, a fair bit of flat water. I've got probably about 3 kilometers, 2 miles of flat water here before I pop out into Radiant Lake. And Radiant Lake is another one of the main lakes that I'll be seeing on this trip. It's probably, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm guessing about 4 miles to cross Radiant, 6 kilometers or so, and then I'll have some good rapids again, and I still have in total today 15 kilometers, so what's that, 10 miles ish. So I got a ways to go, but I got lots and lots of time. Well, there we are, Radiant Lake. We're about to find out if the wind is on our side or against us, because you never can tell when you're in a river corridor. The wind can be totally different than what it's really doing on an open lake. We'll soon find out. Well, made it across. A bit of a paddle across a big lake. Not quite as interesting as the river corridor, but beautiful nonetheless. It looks like there's some gorgeous campsites here. Gonna have to spend some time on this lake on another trip. Pretty nice. Slalom gates. All right, next up, Big Sawyer and Battery Rapids. Gosh, this seems like moose country. Pretty spread out, so it's going to be a bump and grind. Not a big surprise. Where is the water going? Right down the middle. Let's go with that. It's not a big rapid. Cut left. Ooh, gap. Nice. Keeps going. You gotta get left to the water. Not too soon. Right there. Just keeps going. I love it. Shallow. Big rock. All right, Cascade and Whitehorse Rapids. Ba-bump. Now I'm gonna wet.
You can tell that since Radiant Lake, things are picking up with the whitewater. It's not getting more challenging. There's just more of it. And it's, at this point, all class 1, 2, and 3. And it's going to continue to build down this upper section of the Petawawa. And I'm not too far down the road, I'm going to be seeing some 3, 4, and even class 5 rapids. One of the cool things about the Petawawa is when you're dealing with so many rapids, this guidebook right here, this is awesome. There's a Petawawa map, or sorry, an Algonquin Park map that shows the Petawawa River, where all the campsites are and where the rapids are, and you know, you can do it with just totally do this trip with just the map. But this little guide/map book is really awesome. It gives you an idea of how challenging the rapids are in low, medium, and high waters, and it tries to give you a little bit of direction. It doesn't replace scouting. I mean, it was done quite a long time ago, and so you still have to scout. But it gives some really good information so you can plan the day ahead.
Well, that's pretty much all we've got for rapids. There's a little swift up ahead, but that's it until where I think I'm going to be spending the night camping. I will be. The sky looking ominous like it is. I think it's wise to stop there. It's where I plan to stop. So, onward to the Francis. Sweet. Home sweet home. Oh! I don't know what it's going to do tonight. It might rain. I'm going to assume it's going to rain.
I have a love-hate relationship with tarps because, the same reason I do dehydrated meals. I like the adventure to spend my time on the water exploring more than campcraft itself. And so I often find putting up a tarp just a pain in the butt. And so on this trip, I brought the Rain Pro Rainfly. I've forgotten exactly, but I got it for use with the hammock that I was testing this year. But I was like, you know what, this fly is really cool. This tarp would be great for just hanging out in for camping, and so that's what I brought on this trip. And it's actually really easy to set up. You just need 2 trees to put a center line across with, and then you guy out the corners of it, and you get a good, and it's not high, but it's a really nice, simple tarp system for those who don't like setting up elaborate tarp systems. And I know there's some of you out there watching going, what a lazy butt. You know what? It's not about being lazy. It's about where I put my effort.
Well, it's here. I'm glad I got camp set up before this rolled in. I had a certain sense of urgency when I got to camp to get things set up. I just had that feel like something was going to happen, even though I couldn't see anything. The sky looked a little weird for a while. Wind picked up, but now the wind's starting to build a little. Oh yeah. Food. That's what I was doing. Wind's definitely picking up now. Well, seems to be lightening up a little. I wanted more water. I got more water. This really should bring up the river somewhat. I mean, if it starts raining again, it could bring it up a good chunk. But it'll definitely bring it up a little. That was some real rain for quite a while. I guess we'll soon find out, but this section that I'm doing tomorrow, it's the most whitewater, and it's got some really challenging whitewater too. Definitely some things I'm going to be walking. But with a bit more water, it opens up the potential to run some additional rapids. So we'll see. Feels like it's passing by. The calm after the storm, perhaps. Oh, there's a lot of water here. Well, I just checked the weather. I did that with this sucker right here, Zolio. This thing's really cool. I checked the weather and I messaged home, let my wife know that day 2 was great. Aside, well, I didn't tell her about the lost GoPro and all the footage on it, but it was really nice to be. It's really nice to be able to do that. It's nice for me and it's nice for her. But it's also nice to check the weather. When that thunderstorm rolled through, I was like, holy cow, there's still some rumbling in the distance. But that seems to be it. Looks like definitely a system going through. It's going to be cooler the next few days for sure. The nights are going to be cooler, below more like 45 Fahrenheit. So, 8 degrees Celsius or something like that. Nice, fresh, great sleeping weather, to be honest. I love that. Winds aren't going to be too bad. Not much rain, if any. Yeah, it's shaping up to be a good day tomorrow. I don't mind it being a bit cooler tomorrow because I'm going to be working pretty hard, I think. It's going to be a big whitewater day, the biggest whitewater day. Definitely going to be some spots where I'm not going to be able to run. I'm going to have to portage, which is a pain in the butt with this boat and all the little dry bags in it. So, I mean, I might even be able to run it, but not loaded. So I have to move gear around. We'll see. I love the fact that I don't know. It's like a first descent for me. Even though thousands of people have done it beforehand, it's a first descent. And you know what? If it's anything like today, I'm going to absolutely love it. But I need to get some sleep because I'm whooped. That took it out of me. I'll see you in the morning. Good night. Oh yeah. Well, I know you're just dying to find out what is on the breakfast menu of Chef Ken. Well, there you go. A little oatmeal with a bunch of assorted nuts and raisins. Breakfast and champion there. This is clearly not a cooking show, but maybe someday it will be. In fact, I think my cooking show is going to be not about good food, it's about cool places to enjoy food, because food tastes really good when you're in a cool place. That's a good cooking show. Crappy food in cool locations. Something like that. Okay, enjoying the last moments of a dry butt, probably for at least 7 hours today, maybe more. And we're off. Okay, not far here, basically just around the corner. I've got the first rapid. This is actually great if it holds like this. A nice, pretty mild wind, but strong enough wind to keep the bugs down a little bit. It's cool, so I'm not going to be sweating my butt off when when I start portaging. No, this is, knock on wood, pretty ideal. All right. Let's do this. It's pretty spread out, but... Yep, I'm gonna hit some rocks. I didn't even make it to the rapid and I'm hitting rocks. Almost hit that one.
So this morning was a little bit cooler than the previous mornings, and that combined with the fact that the water was only 15 degrees Celsius, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, so not super cold, but definitely chilly. When you got splashed by the water, it was a bit of a shock. And so this is the first time I used a paddling top, a technical paddling top. Up to this point, I just used a long sleeve NRS silk weight shirt. It kept the sun off, it kept the bugs off, and it dried quick. That combined with the fact that I'm wearing a skirt, a neoprene skirt, and that's kind of like having a neoprene, like having a beer cozy around your whole core. It does provide some real warmth. But it was cool enough here that the splashes, I knew they were going to shock me, so I put on this paddling jacket, and I just put it right over top the silk weight shirt. So that's all I've got on here. What I love about this type of paddling jacket, this one itself is the NRS Orion paddling jacket. It's got latex gaskets at the wrists, stops the water from shooting up your arms, getting in at your wrists at all. And that's key, because when you're paddling, even just paddling in flat water, when your arms are up, water can run down, get your shirt wet underneath, and eventually you get wet, really wet inside. Stops that from happening altogether, in particular in white water. At the neck, though, it's not a latex gasket. It's a neoprene gasket, which is still snug, but way more comfortable than latex. I only like to use latex gaskets at the neck when I really need to stay warm, because I just don't find them very comfortable. But this neoprene, way more comfortable, does a really good job of keeping you dry. I mean, unless you're rolling a bunch, even if you're swimming, water's going to get in, but it's going to get in slow. So anyway, love this type of jacket, and that's really all I used the whole trip. That is all I used the whole trip, was just that silk weight, long sleeve silk weight shirt, and then this this paddling top. All right.
Definitely some rocks you could get in trouble with in a canoe. Huh. Yeah, looks like there's a little more water coming this way. Oh, wow. Okay. Take a look. A common mistake people make going down rapids is just paddling hard. It's a default reaction, but there's no need to drive faster into that rock you want to avoid. You're better off just cruising along and keeping your speed in check, so that if you do need to take evasive action, you can do it quickly.
Now, to elaborate a little bit on this idea of not paddling if you don't need to, it contradicts what we learn when we're learning to whitewater paddle. When you're learning to whitewater paddle, you get told, and I tell people, just, keep paddling through that rapid. Just keep on paddling. And the reason for that is when you're starting out in whitewater, you don't know what the waves are going to do to your boat. And so every paddle stroke you take effectively acts as a brace. And it counters the what will otherwise happen to your boat unexpectedly. As you develop experience and you are no longer caught off guard by what the waves are going to do to your boat, you're ready for it, and you just naturally, you don't even think about it, you're going with it. You don't need to be paddling. And so a lot of rules in whitewater, and in a lot of sports too, they change as your skill level changes. This is a perfect example where, hey, when you're learning, it is a good idea to just paddle when you're going through a rapid, because that's helping to keep you upright. As you get more comfortable, back off and take this approach of just, you know what, only paddle if you need to.
All right, so game on. We are at McDonald Rapids. This is a pretty long section of whitewater. It's almost a mile long, well over a kilometer. And it starts off with a bang. It starts off with what they call a falls, but I know it's going to be a significant drop that is a mandatory portage. So you take a look at it. I expect it will be, at least for the gear, but probably for both. And yeah, here we go. Now it's getting real. That doesn't have enough water. There's just not enough water there. There's no way that's going to be runnable. That is the only one that has a possibility of being runnable. Shallow over here. So shallow. Darn. Easy walk over there, relatively speaking. Yeah. Just not enough water. I don't think. I'm gonna go take a look. See if I can take a look from over there. So I just scouted from this river left-hand shore, and I mean, the name of the game right now is how to simplify the whole process of getting around this thing. And it's not going to be pretty, but there's a way to bounce down this left-hand side. It's really dry, but definitely not with a loaded boat. So I'm going to take a load of gear down below, take the heaviest stuff I can below, and then I think I'll be good to go. Yeah. Gonna be a lot of but sure gonna beat. Let's do this. This is why I brought the duffel bag, is to be able to put all the little pieces to make my portaging a lot easier. Wade out at the ends here. Should do a trick. Spot to be beached though. All right, onward. I just got a lot of bites. And I don't have very much exposed skin. But they're finding it. Wow. That looks all right. Yeah. And then just stay left. Okay. That's it. There we go. That is not happening. That's a big hole. Let's see what's around here. Wow. Okay, these are legit falls. The other side it is. It's not worth it. Not worth it. This is a legitimate section of whitewater. Got everything. I got everything.
So both this drop and the previous drop that I didn't walk the previous drop, but I definitely took the easy way around, bumping down the side rocks. These are great examples of drops or rapids that if I wasn't alone, if I was paddling with one of my paddling buddies who are very skilled and I trust to be able to help if things go wrong, then both these rapids are rapids that I likely would have run, because chances are very high that things would have gone smoothly. Solid 90% chance that things go very smoothly, with a 10% chance that, hey, I might get stuck in the sticky holes at the bottom and get thumped around a little bit. But there's also a good chance that I could pull myself out. I've spent so much time surfing holes that I'd probably be able to pull myself out. But changes with a boat like I have, and the weight I have in that boat. But more importantly, what changes things is the fact that I'm alone. And if I did end up swimming, recovering my kayak can be a major problem. And my biggest fear was, what if the kayak got pinned somewhere mid-rapid that wasn't safe to get to? I'm on my own. No one else is going to be coming down this river. Could be definitely days, probably weeks before someone else is going to be down this river. It's not an option waiting for help. And so that's why I just had to be ultra conservative. And it was tough. It wasn't tough. It was tough, but it wasn't tough. It was tough in the sense that I really wanted to run a bunch of the rapids that I came across, but it wasn't tough to make the decision that, hey, this is a bad idea to do it here in this environment alone, because the cost is just too great.
And another one. I have to look, see if I can see this from that eddy right there. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Look at that falls. That is gorgeous. Hands down, one of the most beautiful spots. Shadow. Wow. What a spot. So I've been running a lot of these rapids without scouting them, getting out on the side of the river and taking a good look at them. I've been doing what we call boogie boating or read and run, boat scouting. And the reason I'm able to do that is just because I've spent so much time in whitewater. I've developed the skill of reading whitewater, and reading whitewater is pretty much as valuable a skill as running whitewater. The technical skills involved with paddling through whitewater, and it just comes with time and experience. And so what I'm looking for as I'm going down these rapids, I'm looking not for the waves so much, I'm looking for where the water is passing through downstream. And that's why my eyes I'm looking way ahead, and sometimes I bump into little rocks right close by, because that's not what I really care about. I don't really care about the little rocks under the water. If I hit them, no big deal. I'm trying to pick my line well in advance and see where is most of the water pushing through. And if you see, it doesn't matter what you see a horizon line. You can't see what's over the other side, but there's slack water, almost dead water on one part, but waves coming through another part. You can almost be sure that's where all the water's going through. That's probably the better place to paddle through. So really fun to be able to boat scout, because you don't break up the flow of running whitewater. It's this ongoing ride, these decisions, this puzzle. That's really what whitewater is. It's a puzzle. It's a fun puzzle. It's probably the coolest puzzle there is. Speaking of whitewater and puzzles, got some more whitewater up ahead here, so time to keep puzzling. Come on. All right. Well, maybe this is Unrunnable Falls up here. Well, it is definitely pretty chunky. I don't see any line going through there, and so, but there is a quicker way to portage. I'm going to paddle right up to this eddy just up here, and we'll go from there, because that was a bit of a bushwhack, and I got a lot of followers now. Frickin' mosquitoes. All right, gotta keep moving. Bugs, and more bugs. Oh, I wish I could just go. Wish I didn't have to go back into the mosquitoes. To avoid doing any big portages, this is the strategy that I used for the whole trip. It's the strategy I had in mind when I went into the trip, which is instead of following the portage routes or portage routes, stay on the river.
Because usually when a rapid isn't unrunnable, it's usually a crux move or section that isn't runnable. But there's usually very runnable portions of the rapid. And so my strategy was to stay on the river as much as possible. When I got to something that wasn't comfortable running, then figure out the quickest, shortest way to get my boat around that drop. And it's something that I've, have done for years and years and years of whitewater paddling, scrambled around drops. So I was very confident. There's no real canyons. That's only where you really get into trouble, is when things are canyoned out. And so I knew I could get around. Sometimes it's going to be a pain in the butt, especially with a loaded boat, but more often than not, it would save me a lot of portaging space. And this is a great strategy, but it's only a great strategy if you're a solid whitewater paddler, because if you're not, then more of the whitewater won't be runnable, and you'll end up having to scramble and figure out ways down bigger portions of the rapid, and it can very quickly become easier to have just taken the portage route.
Oh. Well, that may have taken some effort, but that was a lot less effort than doing the full portage. So I don't regret my decision, and I got to run some whitewater before it too that I would have completely missed. But we're right into some more, that's for sure.
Yep, that's me, paddling away from one of my main dry bags, which has all my dry clothes for the trip, my headlamp, my satellite communication device, and probably most importantly, my toilet paper. These are what can be major turning points in backcountry adventures.
Oh, shit. Well, that's a good sign. What are the chances that that rod stayed? Not over. All right, here we are again. This is still Devil's Cellar Rapid. It's a long one. All the way from up there. And it's all pretty good right up until the end here, where you've got this sticky, nasty hole with this big rock over on the side there that you can't really miss the hole. If you miss a hole, you're hitting a rock hard. I don't like it. I could skip over that hole if I had an empty boat, but Devil's Cellar has proven to be, well, to live up to its name. Well, you know, thinking about it on the walk back up, I have this feeling like I need to be really conservative right now. The last rapid, I almost took for granted that I lost my bag with all my clothes in it. What a miserable rest of the trip it would be. Borderline dangerous. I just don't have room for error here, and so I'm going to do the old paddle drag, avoid any possibility of making a big mistake. It's the smart thing to do, if not the most fun thing to do. So
This is another great example of a rapid that I waffled back and forth on about running and then not running. A couple of things. There was the same fact that I was paddling solo and I didn't have room for error. That obviously was the biggest factor that influenced my decision, but a couple of other things did influence my decision. Losing my bag on that previous rapid, which was a pretty stout rapid that I went through, that got me, it kind of brought me down and said, okay, you're having fun running all this whitewater, but don't forget the consequences here. And so that weighed on me a little bit. And also something I call the fun to pain ratio when you look at a rapid. Sometimes when you're scudding a rapid, it's a super fun move and you're like, oh, I really want to do that. And maybe you take the risk of doing it, if assuming it's a little risk, because it's such a cool and fun looking move. And then there's other rapids that the fun to pain ratio is really low. It's like, okay, you know what? That rapid isn't really that special. It's going to be enjoyable. Sure beats walking, but it doesn't look that much fun. And if things go wrong, it's going to really suck. And those are the ones where you tend to be like, you know what, it's just not worth it. And so in this case, it looked fun, but it wasn't a rapid that called to me and said, ooh, you're going to regret not running this rapid. No, the fun to pain ratio was fairly low on this one. So there you go.
all right, so we are now at Temptations, which is a series of 6 rapids in a row. They all should be runnable. So let's do it. One down. God heavy boat. Not an easy section. This is more than I was expecting. Well, that was one of the most beautiful, most fun sections of whitewater that I've ever done. Definitely on a multi-day trip. Gosh, gorgeous rock, gorgeous winding river. You can't ask for more. Well, the section's not quite done. I've got one last substantial rapid up ahead. This is Poplar Rapids coming up. Now, it's considered a class 5. It's a mandatory portage, you know, that's what it's considered. But what has worked for me is staying on the river and not doing the portage itself, because there's a lot of stuff that I can run through in this boat in between the unrunnable stuff. And then the unrunnable stuff, I can pretty quickly and easily drag the boat around. But I am gonna portage my gear around the rapid so that if nothing else, I've got a nice light boat to navigate my way down with.
So one thing I don't show or talk about with regards to my portage around Poplar Rapids is that, you know, it's not that long. I mean, it's long enough. It's 700 meters, 700 yards, so it's long enough. It's a pretty nice portage route. You know, it's rocky, sure, but it's like a hiking trail. It's pretty good. But it was just thick with mosquitoes. And so I had that mesh bag on my back. I had both hands full with gear, and I was hiking down there, and I'd have to stop and just swat the bugs off. Really, the only exposed parts of my body were my hands and my face and neck. And so it'd just get too much, and I'd stop and go a bit nuts and grab my gear and start going with some speed, and I would go in these bursts. And then finally just reached a point where I was like, I was just getting so annoying putting down the gear, and that I felt the mosquitoes on my face and on my hands, and I knew they were biting me, and I was just like, whatever. And I just let them chew away. You know, that's the way it goes sometimes when you're dealing with heavy bugs. They can be maddening. And June in Algonquin Park is, not just Algonquin Park, June in a good portion of Canada is very buggy. It's the buggiest month. But the bugs aren't bad enough. Even though I complain a lot about the bugs on this trip, they're real. You have to be prepared for them. You need to bring your bug shirt. You need to bring DEET. But they shouldn't stop you from going. If you're prepared, they shouldn't stop you going on a trip, because there are so many other reasons to go in June. June, everything is so lush in June. You're not going to see many people in June. In fact, you know, I saw someone on my first day, the day I launched, but that's it here to this point. And the water levels, when you're running the rivers on in Eastern Canada, or anywhere really, this is the time when they have the most water and they're the most fun.
All right, let's do this. This is a waterfall. Too shallow. High five. Fist bump.
It felt pretty amazing to reach this point, which is the end of the upper section of the Petawawa and the start of the lower section of the Petawawa. It was just such a big day, and I accomplished so much. It felt like a huge victory to reach this point. But at the same time, it was really, I was really bummed that I was here, because that upper section, I've been wanting to do it for so long. I'd never done it before, and it was over now. And I absolutely love that feeling of not knowing what's ahead, coming around a corner and being surprised and having to figure how to get down certain sections. I mean, so one of the reasons I love paddling alone is so that nobody's telling me from their past experiences what they've done, how to do something. I love figuring it out. And that's why doing a river for the first time is awesome. It's just the best feeling. And once you've done it, you can never do that again. You can never experience not knowing what's around the corner. And so it was sad to reach this point as well, because it was such a magical section of whitewater, not just whitewater, a magical section of river. And, I won't be able to ever do it again for the first time. It's like reading an amazing book or watching an incredible movie, and you get to the end and you're like, oh, that was so good. I wish I could forget everything I just read or watched and start over and experience that again, but on a much grander scale. Anyway, happy but sad to be here.
All right, I'm loaded back up and on my way. This is Lake Traverse, and it's the start of the lower section of the Petawawa. Much more, it's not very popular. I mean, it's popular, but not many people do it. This is a big lake here. It's probably about, 6 miles, 10 kilometers long. But right now, I'm just looking for one of the first nice campsites, and there's lots of them, because I am whooped and I need some food. Well, I made it to camp, not a minute too soon. I'm done. I'm done paddling for the day. It's 8 o'clock. Got an hour left of daylight, an hour and 15 or so. I left the last campsite at 10 a.m. So that's a 10-hour day without any stopping. A couple little snack breaks, but it's a big day. It's a good day.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. That was a great day. Full day. Tomorrow's gonna be another one. And so that's all I got. Time to sleep. Nice.
Oh yeah. Gotta leave room for Baileys. Today, I'm going about the same distance as yesterday. So it's a big day. I do have to get a reasonable start, but there's not nearly as much whitewater and not nearly as much challenging stuff. There is really just 2 rapids that are going to be somewhat challenging. The first one is going to be Crooked Chute, and Crooked Chute is definitely one of the tougher ones on the river. And then Rollaway Rapids, which should be pretty straightforward. I don't even think I'm going to bother portaging any of my gear around. But yeah, it's probably another pretty close to a 20-kilometer day. Check that out right there. All right, time to pack all this gear in the boat. And to let you know a little bit about my strategy for doing that, I have a ton of little dry bags. It's the only way I can fit things in all the nooks and crannies. But what I'm doing is I'm packing the food in the back of the boat, and I'm packing my sleeping stuff, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, up in the front of the kayak. And the idea there is that I want the front to be lighter when I'm going through whitewater. If one end's going to be heavier than the other, I want it to be the back of the boat so that the bow is more inclined to stay on the surface. But ideally, I want to be as balanced as possible. The tent I'm putting right behind the seat. It's one of the heavier things. And so I'm trying to focus as much of the weight right here behind the seat. This space here is pretty big, so I can fit my tent. And that's actually where I've been putting either my camera gear or snacks, the heavier things, not the light snacks. And the final touch is my clothes, which I put on the back deck, because again, it's fairly light, it's bulky, but it's pretty light. And you don't want anything heavy on the deck, because that just makes you top heavy, which you don't want.
So this was my first time ever using a crossover kayak. A crossover kayak is a whitewater kayak that's designed for multi-day trips, so it's a bit bigger. It's a bit longer, a bit wider, so it has more weight capacity and can store more gear. It also has the hatch in the stern, so you can put gear in there, a bulkhead behind the seat to separate that whole stern compartment into its own zone, and it has a drop-down skeg to help you track in the long flat water sections. I really enjoyed the boat. It's the Liquid Logic Remix XB10, but it's not a perfect boat. You know, every time I, very few boats are perfect. I mean, I've tested around 100 different boats, and each one, there usually is something that I say, oh, I wish it had this, or I think I'd prefer to have this. In the case of the Remix, well, you can see me tying the bag on the back here, and I'm having to put a cam strap around the back grab loop. And that's because the tie down points are immediately behind the cockpit, but before the stern hatch. And there aren't any tie down points further back. And so that's one of the big things I would change with this boat for multi-day trips, having really strong tie-down points further back on the sides of the kayak so that you can more effectively cinch down tie gear on the outside of the boat. And this is the reason why I lost the bag the previous day. I cranked down as much as I could, but it just isn't locked down.
All right, we're off. Another really nice campsite. That is one of the great things about Algonquin, is there's so many good campsites. The flip side is firewood is really hard to find, takes some real effort. Fortunately for me on this trip, I've had no desire for a fire whatsoever. Jeez. Well, that was either the dumbest or the sleepiest turtle ever. I was busy looking at the camera, trying to get a shot of it gliding in, and I didn't realize how close I was to it until all of a sudden I see in the frame my bow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna knock this turtle off the log. They never let you get that close. Unless they're really dumb or really tired. All right, so we're back to the fun stuff. This is Big Thompson Rapid, followed by Little Thompson Rapid, and this is where the lake ends and the river really starts, and it has a very different character. Bugs, 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 bugs. Skeg is up. All right. This is a good flow. I like this. All right, so now we got Little Thompson. Now that we're in the river, this should be faster moving. We've got some real current There are still some flat sections, but there probably should be a little bit of current even in those sections. Guess we'll soon find out, but this should have some nice waves here. What is that? Oh, it's a chipmunk going for the big crossing. Nice, buddy. Go, go, go. Oh, he knows I'm there. He thinks I'm gonna eat him. Oh no, it's okay, buddy. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. You got this. Almost there. The last little bit. Oh, and then he scales the rocks, the cliff. Bald eagle sitting right there. That was cool. Huh. I bet he just had a meal.
I think one of my biggest surprises on this trip was the fact that I saw very little wildlife. I saw a ton of bald eagle and waterfowl and a lot of little creatures, but nothing big whatsoever. I was really hoping to see a moose or a bear. Even to see some deer would have been cool. Didn't see anything like that, which was surprising because certainly weren't a lot of people on the river scaring them away. You know, it was just me. But I think the biggest reason, I'm sure I passed some, and I think I probably spooked some before I got to them because of the boat I'm using. Yeah, it's not nearly as quiet as a canoe is cutting through the water. Canoes with that V hull and that bow keel that just cuts through the water, it's very quiet. It glides through the water silently. Whereas this boat, it's got that bulbous bow, which is designed for whitewater, and it plows, it pushes a lot of water. And it's surprising how loud that can be. And I think that was probably one of the reasons is the wildlife up ahead could hear me coming. But I really did want to see moose or bear while I was on the river, not at camp, but here.
Well, I got another 4 kilometers or so. There's some current, a little swift, but about 4 kilometers before the whitewater starts again. And then I'm pretty much into it for a while. So that'll be good. This place is almost fake. It's just too perfect. Well, time to swap the hat for a helmet. This is Glade Rapids, and it's followed pretty closely by Crooked Chute. Crooked Chute is a pretty long rapid, and it's pretty mellow for really until the very end. And so got a good long section of cruisy whitewater with, it ends with a bang. This is a much more civilized way to cover miles. Next up, Crooked Chute. It's like a kilometer of just cruisiness. And then the Scout. All right, so I'm liking the looks of it. Definitely gonna walk the gear around to be safe. Be much easier to run it without the gear, so definitely walking the gear around, and then it's pretty good to go. A nice, fairly straightforward line right down the top part, and then the bottom part keeps coming around the corner here, and there's a bit of a move down here that I'll probably sneak a little. Again, just to be super conservative, but it won't be a bump and grind sneak like some of the ones yesterday. So it should be good. Oh, mosquitoes, mosquitoes. Oh. Thank you, paddle, for taking the beating that you do. You're appreciated.
I wanted to take a second there and emphasize that point. I think the paddle is probably one of, or the most underappreciated piece of gear for almost any type of paddling. We rely on it so much, and it takes a lot of abuse, especially on a low water river trip like this. The paddle I'm using on this trip, by the way, is the Algoma's new aerial paddle, a paddle they just came out with in 2024. It's a composite paddle, a carbon shaft. The one version I have here is actually fiberglass blades, not carbon blades. You can get it with carbon blades. It's not the lightest paddle, but it's designed to be durable, and that's what I wanted. I didn't care about having a super light paddle. I wanted a paddle that could take the beats. You know, it's not a matter of if I was going to be hitting rock with the paddle, it's more how hard I'm going to be hitting the rock with the paddle. And it's worth mentioning the cool thing about that aerial paddle and why I liked having it for this trip, and I think it's going to be a good long-term paddle. What they've done is, the way composite paddles are made, the blades, it's just layers of fiberglass or carbon Kevlar that these sheets that are put together, basically just to simplify it, epoxied together, glued together. And over time, what ends up happening is they delaminate. They start coming apart. And that's sped up by the abuse that the end of the paddle takes. And you just kind of open up opportunities for water to get in there when you're banging it into the rock. So what Algoma did with the aerial, they call it lamb lock, but really all it is they've used this carbon thread to sew the hole around the whole edge of the paddle, to sew all those laminates, all those sheets together so that it can't delaminate, it can't let water in. You know, it's new, so time will tell how effective it is, but it makes a whole lot of sense. More importantly, you know, this was when you find a paddle you trust, you stick with it, but you don't stick with it to the point where it's weakened. I've made that mistake a number of times where I've loved a paddle and I've kept with it for too long, knowing, you know what, I've been paddling this using this paddle hard for 4 years now, and it's showing signs of real wear. I probably should change paddles before it breaks and causes me some real grief. Last note about paddles, I do have a backup paddle. It wasn't even a question. You need to have a backup paddle on any multi-day trip, on most day trips as well. It's a good idea to have a backup paddle. It's stored in the boat. It's not the same type of paddle, but it is a durable paddle, because a good durable paddle. I wanted something that, hey, if this paddle did break, that I could really trust banging on rocks, my backup paddle. I didn't want a flimsy backup.
All right, well, we're right into it, aren't we? Bump, 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 bump. Ooh.
Once again here, you can see I'm not paddling hard downstream here. I'm really going with the flow, and my strokes are more being used to change my direction and to make a move when I need to.
Oh, that cooled me down nicely and washed the bugs off. Excellent. All right, this is what they call the most challenging rapid, especially with the skeg down, that you'll run in a canoe. It's just a long rapid. It's almost a kilometer long of boulder garden with a decent ledge towards the bottom that you definitely need to be in the right spot for. But I will be putting my helmet on for this rapid. Man, that sun.
Notice that as I'm heading downstream here, my eyes are looking way ahead, and I'm taking very few strokes once again. I'm looking so far ahead because I'm picking my line, the line in front of me, based on where I want to be down the road. And the only way to know where I ultimately want to be, what part of the side of the river, is by just looking ahead and planning my route based on that.
All right, so now we got the first of the Natch Rapids. This is pretty. This is the Natch Rapids number 2. And that pretty much does it for the whitewater. Now it's off to camp. Happy times. What a day. What a good day. In every way. Beautiful weather. Beautiful company. And great paddling. And the gorgeous campsite. And it just so happens that this campsite has no bugs. Well, it's pretty easy to see why this is a prized campsite on the Petawawa River. I mean, it's a beautiful big site, but look at that view. Pretty awesome. But it'll be even more awesome on top of there, and I still have a bit of time left, and so I'm gonna make the trek up. It's not a well-marked trail, but I do have time to get up there and watch the sun set over the Petawawa Valley. Let's do it.
A few people have left comments about what bug shirt I'm using, and it's actually called the original bug shirt. I don't know if it really is the original bug shirt, but I'm guessing it is. It's a great shirt. Awesome around camp. The mesh zips down so you can eat or apply sunscreen. You can, you don't have to have it up, and then it just zips right back on. The only thing to note about it is that it's pretty warm. And so when I'm exercising, like when I'm hiking, I sweat pretty good in it.
Hot. Wow. Oh my. Wow. What a spot. The only thing that would make this a little bit better would be like a nice cold beer. Oh, like that. 4 days I've lugged this thing. 4 days I've lugged it around in my boat, waiting for the perfect moment. This qualifies as a perfect moment. Wow.
Well, mosquitoes chase me into the tent, but it's not a bad thing. It's a big day and need my beauty sleep. Tomorrow, don't have any serious whitewater, just a lot of chill swifts, long sequences of class 1 and 2, and so can cover some miles tomorrow with very little concern. So should be fun.
Be tomorrow before we know it, because I am saying good night. Pretty spectacular campsite, but there's definitely truth that there's no such thing as a perfect campsite. This one has a very, very healthy population of mosquitoes, which isn't that surprising. There's a lot of swampy, marshy bits right around us. See you, Natch. Well, a bit of a change of plans. Today, I was actually supposed to have a layover day, a down day. I was planning on hanging out at the Natch, doing the hike to the top, doing a bunch of fishing out here, and just relaxing after a pretty hard bunch of days getting here. But to be honest, the bugs, the mosquitoes were just too much to be able to actually relax and enjoy it. It was a constant onslaught. And that combined with the fact that I did the hike last night in the primo time, beautiful sun, watching almost the sunset. I mean, I checked that box. So, you know what? I decided to keep going. And I'm not sure how far I'm gonna make it. This section down here is beautiful. A lot of flat water, but there's also a lot of just moving water, class 1, just flying, covering miles, weaving around rocks. It'll be just really beautiful and fun, but there's no real anticipation for what's to come at this point, except just enjoying the day. So I'm gonna see where the day takes me.
Another factor that I didn't mention that was really impacting my decision not to to spend a layover day at the Natch was I was experiencing the first symptoms of the shoulder issue that's plaguing me right now. What happened was not the night at the Natch, but the previous night, I was waking up all the time at night with my whole arm being asleep. And I really got a crappy sleep. And then the night before this day, same thing. The night at the Natch, I was up even more. And my shoulder, it wasn't my shoulder, it was my arm, was asleep, and it kept me up a good portion of the night. I thought, I mean, since I've paddled so much whitewater, I've struggled with some back and neck issues, and I go see a chiropractor because, it really helps me, and my back gets out of alignment. And I thought, oh, something's gone in my neck and back, and it's causing my arm to go asleep. And and I just assumed that's what it was. And so, but it was really having a profound impact on my sleep. And so I decided, you know what? I don't want to spend another sleepless night at the Natch, especially maybe if it was an epic day. I would suffer through it, but it was bound to be a beautiful day, but a bug-filled day as well. And I was getting over the bugs a little bit. So I headed out early, and I already had it in my mind because of that if all things aligned, I would, and it made sense, I would continue out and take out that day so that I could go see my chiropractor right away and try to get some good sleep again.
So this is Schooner Rapids, 2 kilometers of just cruisy goodness. So let's cruise. Let's cruise. Cruising. Hop, hop. Some people have commented in the past about, why aren't you wearing a helmet through whitewater like this? And the answer is pretty simple. I don't need one. I mean, it doesn't mean everyone doesn't need one in whitewater like this, but I just have the experience to know I don't need one in here. The chances of me flipping in here are the same chances as me tripping and falling on the hike that I did up at the Natch yesterday. Should I have worn a helmet for that hike? No, the difference really is hiking, everybody understands their limits. But with whitewater, you need the experience to truly understand your limits. And that you're going to hit this rock right here. Whoa. Oh, I showed it my butt. Oh, and another one, very shallow here. If you don't have that experience, and it takes a lot of experience, then you just don't know. And so you have to play safe. And so I'm not saying that it's not a smart idea to wear a helmet in whitewater like this. What I'm saying is that I don't need to because I have the experience to make that judgment call. Oh, this is nice. This sure beats flat water. I mean, I don't mind flat water paddling, but I've said it once and I'll say it again. I've always loved using gravity to my advantage, and that is what we're doing right now. All right, 5 Mile Rapid. This rapid just got very spread out at the bottom. Oh, I'm just barely scraping by here. Oh, I think I might have made it through. I was sure I was going to get stuck there for a while. Nice. Well, that'll do it. 5 Mile Rapid. Well, I just made it through one of the most beautiful lakes in the park, Whitson Lake. Sorry for not showing it. You are going to have to go and see that one yourself. But I'm now in Smith Lake, and this is where I'm supposed to camp. And I've passed a couple of nice campsites already, but it's early. And the bugs are pretty voracious right now. I'm only 8 kilometers from the takeout, and so change of plan again. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to grind out the last 8 kilometers of flat water and finish this trip early. You know, without any more white water. I feel okay with ending this one early, especially because I've got a couple more trips coming right up, and I've got to start planning for those. Take some of the things I've learned from this trip, but I've got some really exciting trips, a couple of short ones, but then next month I'm heading to Lake Superior and doing my first multi-day, pretty good sized trip, about a 6-day trip on Lake Superior, and that's very exciting. And then, well, got more trips after that. Lots of trips coming up. I hope you guys have enjoyed this adventure. It's been amazing. You know, I've been wanting to see the upper section of the Petawawa River for so long, and not only did it not disappoint, but it exceeded my expectations, and I had high expectations for it. So highly recommend it. You know, you have to be ready for a mission, but what a mission it is up there and down here from Lake Traverse down. Incredible river. Definitely something to put on your bucket list. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video. I already mentioned this earlier, but I'll be doing a follow-up video to the expedition video about how I packed and all the gear that I brought on this trip. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I liked and would definitely bring again, and some of the things that I wouldn't bring next time. And so full gear rundown, stay tuned for that one coming right up. Otherwise, let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below, ask any questions down below, give the video, the adventure, the expedition, give it a thumbs up, please, if you like this thing. And otherwise, we'll see you again soon for another paddling tip, paddling gear review, or not just paddling, outdoor gear review and backcountry adventure. All right, 8 more kilometers to go. It's not going to do it by itself. This is where a little motor would be nice. You know, I get motors in the right place, right time. I get it. Like right now, I'd use a motor. But the fact that I don't have a motor makes me feel I'm going to tough it out. 8 kilometers of flat water in a whitewater boat after doing 16 kilometers. Yeah, motor would be nice.
Well, there you have it. The full director's cut of my Petawawa River adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and please do leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think of this director's cut style of video. Is it too much? Too much information? Would you prefer that you just let it run, or do you like it? Do you want me to? You want me to continue providing more in-depth insights into what's going on and why, and if so, actually, is there more specific types of information that you like from it? So anyway, whatever you have to share, I'll leave it as a comment down below, and make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to Paddle TV, or not Paddle TV, subscribe to Ken Whiting Adventures if you haven't already, but go ahead and subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't either. That's my other channel, which is just the paddling instruction and gear reviews. And stay tuned for another paddling tip, gear review, or paddling adventure.